So Donald Trump hosted in the White House Benjamin Netanyahu. And I think since the last time they met, President Trump had met with, now in the Oval Office, several of the hostages that had been taken, terrorized, abused, tortured by Hamas. And here he is with Netanyahu now, just yesterday, telling him about what the hostages told him about their treatment. And President Trump rightly identifies the, frankly, pretty incomparable evil that Hamas are. Have a watch.
I had people right in this office, this beautiful Oval Office. They came in, 10 people, hostages, you know that. And I said to them, so how was it? And the stories they told me, I mean, as an example, I said to them, was there any sign of love? You were there, 10 people. It's only 10, but it's pretty representative. Did the Hamas show any signs of, like, help or liking you? Did they wink at you? Did they give you a piece of bread extra? Did they give you a meal on the side, like, you know, you think of doing? Like what happened in Germany, what happened elsewhere. People would try and help people that were in unbelievable distress. They said no. I said, all of them. I said, did they ever wink at you like, you'll be okay? You're going to be okay? No, they didn't do that. They'd slap us. The hatred is unbelievable. And the lives, you know, they lived in a pipe, not really a tunnel, it was a pipe. And they always thought they were suffocating, they were going to suffocate. And then they'd open up the pipe and it was like 3.5 feet high. This isn't, you know, we hear tunnels is bad, but pipes are worse. And the stories I heard were incredible. But I just said, was there any sign of potential love or affection? And there were none whatsoever. It was amazing to me. There was nothing like, here, take this, it's a little extra meal or something. They lived like hell. I don't know. They seemed to be, they were amazing to me because they seemed to be pretty normal. They weren't scarred, but I guarantee underneath they have to be scarred. And one was there for 356 days. Another was there for about 180 days, you know, a long time. These are people that have been really, really horribly treated. I've never seen anything like it, actually. I was very surprised to hear the answer.
It's interesting that he compares it to Nazi Germany, to Nazi Europe, really. Interesting that he thinks of that comparison. Because it's he can connect. He's connecting the journey, the story of the Jewish people, and anti-Semitism throughout the ages. It is interesting. Yes, the Jewish people experienced unprecedented evil and industrial genocide by the Nazis. But we did hear stories of righteous among the nations. We heard stories of the occasional Nazi officers who might show an ounce of sympathy or empathy. Nothing here. Nothing here. Why is that? Well, there's a religious, ideological hatred that exists here with Hamas. The Islamist kind of worldview that exists is embedded in the Palestinian cause and the anti-Israel Arab Muslim coalition, which basically says they have a religious duty to wipe out Israel. And until you can change that, until they can understand that to be against Israel is not godly, but it's ungodly, until they can appreciate that, we're going to continue to have hostility from the Arab world. Here he is, President Trump, also showing this kind of moral clarity and understanding just how evil October 7th was. Have a watch of this second clip of him with Netanyahu.
Mr. President, was October 7th the death blow of the two-state solution, and would you consider classifying the Palestinian Authority as a terrorist organization for its continued pay-for-slay terror financing payments?
So October 7th was a horrible day that some people, they deny it. Now, I can't believe they deny it from the standpoint of it. They do it because they think it's good politically. But October, I've seen the tapes, I've seen things that you don't want to see. October 7th was a horrible day, and it will go down as one of the really bad days in the history of the world. It was a horrible, horrible thing that happened. And they grabbed some of these people. I'll give you an example. When I was with the 10 hostages a few weeks ago, I said, so how many are there? 59. I said, oh, so 59, so we can get 59. They sort of knew the territory pretty good. And I said, how are they doing? They said, well, only 24 are living, the rest are dead. And these are young people largely. Young people don't die. You know, young people have an amazing ability to live. They can live through horrible things, but these are young people. And when they said that 24 are living and the rest are dead. And you know, I've had parents come up, Israeli parents largely. We have some Americans, and I guess we have one left, Alex. We have the one left. But I've had Israeli parents come up to me at events and say, my son is there. I said, well, how's he doing? Well, he's dead. But would you do me the biggest favor ever? Could you bring his body back home? They talked about a young dead boy and a young dead girl like they were living. And that could have something to do with religion, something to do with, I guess maybe any parent would be, but I was surprised. And they said, sir, my son is dead. It is just as important to bring that body back home. I asked that question as if he were alive. So you have a lot of them dead, and we'll be able to bring them back. But it's a horrible thing that's happened. These are young, largely young people, some old ones too, frankly. And those people have lived in hell. When they came off, the second group that came out, they looked like they just got out of a concentration camp. They looked exactly like the pictures that I'd see from the 1940s, the concentration camps. And then they got a little bit better, you know, but that second group, those people came out and I said, this is unbelievable. We're going back into a chapter in history that is one of the worst ever. It's really very bad, okay?
So there, President Trump is showing exceptional moral clarity and understanding about the situation. And whatever you may think of him, this is not the kind of language that I think we would hear enough from in the previous administration, from President Biden. He understands very clearly that Israel's in the right, that Hamas are comparable to modern-day Nazis. That's effectively what he is saying. And that's the truth. If you're an organization whose stated goal is the elimination of Jewish security, Jewish self-determination, and the Jewish people, whose children they rear to become martyrs, quote-unquote martyrs, terrorists, that call up their parents after murdering Jews and say, Mom, Dad, I've killed a Jew, and they celebrate. How could they not be Nazis? The same, the equivalent. Trump seems to be almost indicating that the fact that there was no ounce of sympathy shows just how deeply widespread the poisonous ideological hatred is. Until this deeply religious world understands that it is ungodly to go against Israel and the Jewish people, the problem will persist. This is how I think we've seen, and we can look at a model here, in the way that the Christian world, or certainly the evangelical world, shifted their views on the Jewish people. They had theological shifts and understood that the Jews aren't rejected, God maintains his covenant with the Jews. And that's what's allowed them to become so supportive of Israel. We need to see that same shift happen in the Islamic world. There needs to be an understanding that God has not forsaken the Jews, that he maintains his covenant with them, and that his project for the world, his moral vision for the world, was, is, and will be spearheaded by the nation of Israel. So only when they can understand that will things change. And that's why we're pushing that message on this channel, and that's what I think Israel should be doing. It would be a radical transition for Israel in terms of the way it articulates its cause. To stop speaking in a Western secular democratic tone, instead start speaking with a divine authority. But you know what? That's the region they're in. They're fighting a war in the Middle East, so they should start talking the language of the Middle East. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.